Once a year since 2019, Old School Runescape has run a limited time Leagues mode with boosted XP, boosted drop rates, added content like Relics that change core game mechanics, and a task list where each task awards a certain amount of points based on difficulty. Put simply, the goal of each league is to complete as many tasks as possible while racking up points. This video isn't an ad for why I think Old School RuneScape's Leagues is one of the best alternate game modes for any MMO out there today. This isn't an in-depth breakdown on the history of this game mode. This is a video about one of the few players who grind and try to top the leaderboards whenever this limited time mode comes around each year. That brings us to Seanz. You might think this is some NPC with edgy deep lore or a cool backstory, but no. There is a sad human piloting this real character standing alone in a frozen wasteland. So why is he here? What's going on? Do I care? Before we talk about that weirdo pretending he's the main character of a game that came out in 2001, let's look at a quick history of Old School RuneScape's Leagues. On November 14th, 2019, Old School RuneScape opened worlds for the Twisted League. Players were restricted to the recently redesigned Kingdom of Keren, which had received criticism as a poorly designed area when it was first released in 2016. At the time, there was general excitement around the Twisted League's concept and release, but some old school players saw the League's game mode and thought, fucking private server RuneScape. Limited time mode's not gonna matter after a week or two. Anyways, regardless of how different groups of players reacted, Old School RuneScape's very first league was generally well received on launch. It was something different, and that was enough for players to enjoy themselves. The Twisted League hit its max player count on November 17th, 2018, with about 145,000 online players. We talked about how completing tasks is the goal of Leagues, and the task list for the very first Leagues was, well, pretty bad. The task list consisted of easy, medium, hard, elite, and master tasks. Easy tasks were things like completing an easy quest, getting level 20 in a skill, doing some annoying random errand for an NPC that doesn't care about you. Medium tasks were slightly more difficult. Get level 40 or 60 in a skill, kill a boss for the first time, do a slightly more annoying random errand for an NPC who doesn't care about you. Hard tasks ramped it up a little. Get level 80 in a skill, get a rare drop, do a really fucking annoying random errand for an NPC who doesn't care about you. Elite tasks were as far as most players were willing to go. You get level 99 in a skill, kill a boss a bunch of times, get a really rare drop. There's no more annoying errands though. That's nice. Master tasks. How about 200 million XP in a skill? How about obtaining a boss or skilling pet? One of the rarest things you can get in the game. How about 1,000 completions of some of the highest level content in the game? How about the most annoying, time-consuming, RNG-based errand you could possibly Obviously, this task list was a bit lopsided. This Reddit post by Equinar from January 14th, 2020 is a good overview of how most players fared with this insane task list. It's worth calling out that in OSRS Leagues mode, there are tiers you can achieve by reaching certain point milestones, and in the first ever Leagues, this was based on the percentile of league points you were in. First thing worth pointing out is that 110,000 players only had 10 league points, meaning they logged in and said, no. So let's not count this bronze tier as people who are actually trying to earn points. Our sane tier of players between Steel and Adamant rank had about 220,000 players. Not counting bronze tier, this sane tier of players made up 97% of the player base. That remaining 3% in Rune and Dragon rank were players like this guy. Oh God, he stinks. With this skewed task list, the vast majority of players who played this new mode completed the tasks that weren't annoying or unnecessarily inflated grinds, and the players who pushed for Rune or Dragon rank were a rarity because of how grind-focused the mode was. The most telling sign that this task list was just plain bad was that no player completed every available task. Even the most dedicated players all gave up at some point. Jagex had tried to cater this mode to every type of player, and ultimately failed to do that for this first iteration of Leagues being a grind fest limited to one specific area of the game. Going forward, we'd see Jagex improve the task list and the game-changing mechanics that define the mode. With that, Old School RuneScape's second league, Trailblazer, had even more hype than the first, as we weren't locked to Stinky Karen this time around. We could unlock 3 out of 7 unlockable regions, with Mistalin and Karamja already unlocked, and on top of that we had a whole new set of relics. Players were excited to dive back into leagues now that it was clear that Jagex had worked to keep the mode fresh. Trailblazer Worlds opened on October 28, 2020, and a few days later on November 1st, Old School RuneScape had 172,000 active players. The task list this time was made up of region-specific tasks, so the grind to complete tasks wasn't as daunting as it was in the first leagues. The most interesting thing about the region-specific task format is that every region had a different maximum amount of points available based on the tasks available in that region. No, the regions were not balanced to all have the same possible amount of max points. There was now a meta to picking regions for players like Seanz who were going to go for the max points possible. The final numbers for the Trailblazer League, once again brought to us by Equinar, made it clear that Jagex succeeded in making a more accessible league. How far could Jagex push leagues? The player count kept rising every time they ran this yearly event, and by making the game mode objectively better every time they ran the event, players were enjoying it more and more. Old School RuneScape's third and fourth leagues, Shattered Relics and Trailblazer Reloaded, both followed. The Shattered Relics League saw our relics get shattered into pieces, and at a max active player count of 142,000 players. Trailblazer Reloaded was a reiteration of the original Trailblazer League with more progression and content, and it peaked at 205,000 active players. 205,000 active players was the most the game had ever seen up to that point in time, and it was only surpassed when the Raging Echoes League, the league that's currently released, hit 231,000 active players on December 2nd, 2024. Raging Echoes Leagues started on November 27th, 2024 and will end on the 22nd of this month. Through all 5 leagues, Jagex has been consistent about adding new content, making the game mode fun for new and veteran players, and making goofy blender animations to promote each league. I feel confident in saying that Raging Echoes is the best league we've had yet. It follows the region unlock system, the relics are fun and provide meaningful player choices, and the quality of the task list shows that Jagex has really started to understand how to cater to all types of players. But wait, what's this one? Obtain a kebab from the Surtur brothers? Who are the Surtur brothers? How hard could that be? Gamers, this task is why I decided to stop playing leagues for 4 hours and make a YouTube video that no one is going to watch. This task is why Seanz is standing all alone, playing with himself.
No, I'm not.
This task has separated families. It's killed children. It's caused widespread disease. Sorry about that. This task requires you to get a specific reward from a specific random event. Random events in RuneScape are funny little distractions that happen every once in a while. Maybe it's a nice sandwich lady offering you a sandwich. Maybe it's a mysterious old man taking you to a wacky little maze. Random events are, well, random. And specifically for this task, we're looking for one of the Surtur brothers, either Niles, Miles, or Giles, to appear out of thin air and ask us to identify an item. After we tell the idiot what item he's looking at, he gives us a random reward from a set list of potential rewards and fucks off. There is a 10.66% chance of receiving a kebab from one of the Surtur brother events. So why is this task so difficult? Well, you can expect to receive a random event roughly every hour and a half in game, but more on this soon. On top of this hour and a half wait, there are 24 potential random events you can receive. So every hour and a half, you have a 1 in 24 chance at your random event being a Surtur brother. It's about a 1 in 225 chance for you to get a Surtur brother who rewards you with a kebab when you receive a random event. With average luck, this would take you 337 hours. Now what does this all have to do with Seanz? Seanz is an old school RuneScape god with a maxed main and Ironman account, but more importantly he's a Leagues grinder. Seanz achieved rank 10 in Leagues 3 Shattered Relics and rank 3 in Leagues 4 Trailblazer Reloaded. He also had a chance to rank highly in Leagues 2, but according to him a power outage took him out for 2 weeks. With the release of the Raging Echo League, Seanz had the same goal as he does with all leagues: get front page of the league points high scores. He found the optimal regions for maximum points and he started grinding. It's worth calling out that players grinding for a high score in leagues aren't just pouring endless hours in. That's part of it, but you have no chance to compete for a high rank if you aren't playing optimally. I mean, look at this guy. Is he fletching while hitting Vorkath? Jesus Christ. Seanz played optimally throughout leagues, usually knocking out multiple grinds at the same time. And as the task list dwindled down, it had become clear to the small group of players pushing for rank 1 that one task would likely determine the order of the high scores: obtaining a kebab from the Surtur brothers. This small group of players found ways to optimize their chances at completing this task.
Of course they did.
In the overworld of old school RuneScape, you're eligible to receive any of the possible random events, but by standing in a hunter area, you limit the possible random events you can receive only to random events that can't teleport you away. In short, this meant that you now had a 1 in 10 chance of receiving a Surtur brother as your random event if you were in a hunter area when you received a random event. These players also optimized around the timing for when you can receive a random event. Like I said before, random event eligibility mechanics are complicated. So to simplify this, just know that players optimizing for this task were making sure that they were in a hunter area every time there was a chance they could receive a random event. This meant that these players dropped whatever they were doing, ruining the efficiency of whatever task they were currently working on, just to better their chances at seeing a Surtur brother as their random event. On screen now, you'll see some of the math that Seanz provided me around this grind. All of the high score grinders that didn't get lucky in getting this task done early were now all optimizing for this task together while working through whatever remaining tasks they had left. Fast forward to December 18th. Seanz only had a handful of tasks left. Some kill count tasks, a few rare drops, some skilling, and one stinky kebab. At this point, rank 1 was already out of his reach as Canuppy achieved rank 1. But Seanz was still pushing to try and end as high as he possibly could on the high scores. A few days later, on December 24th, Seanz was tied for rank 10 with old school RuneScape content creator A Cold One. Both players sitting at the same point total and only one task remaining: obtain a kebab from the Surtur brothers. And with that, both players stood in the Polar Hunter area and waited, and waited, and waited. To spoil the ending of this story, Seanz is still standing and waiting. He lost his top 10 placement when A Cold One got his kebab on December 26th, just 2 days after they started their race, and since that time, Seanz has slid from a potential max rank of 10 to 33. He's lost countless kebab races, and he continues to find himself in more and more kebab races as players catch up. Through it all, Sean continues to sit in the Polar Hunter area on World 538, waiting for his kebab. He's not giving up, and the community has taken notice. They're sending kebab energy his way. And the funniest thing about all of this is that he's being optimal. He has nothing left to do on leagues. He just has to get lucky. One time.